The United Nations and aid agencies are warning of alarming rates of contamination in Gaza's water supply. An emergency water quality survey was conducted between December 1 and 23rd. It found that nearly 73% of drinking water and more than 97% of domestic water samples did not contain the minimum amount of chlorine needed to make it safe. 19% of the samples collected were contaminated with sewage. In healthcare facilities, this rate was more than 21%. The poor water quality is caused by Israel's blockade. It has cut off access to water testing equipment and disinfectants. Israel has also destroyed Gaza's water quality control system. Sami al-Arian is the director of the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Zaim University, and he joins me now live from Istanbul. Professor, thank you for joining us on the Al Jazeera News Hour. Let's begin first with setting the context for our audience, because at this moment, as tents across Gaza are flooded, as people are struggling to keep their children warm, as people are getting sick because of the cold, we have to note that this is not just challenging weather caused by nature, but this is a situation compounded by Israel blocking aid.
Absolutely correct. The Zionist regime has been waging a genocidal campaign in Gaza for the last 15 months. If you're a Palestinian living in Gaza today, one may die of getting injured from bombing or shelling. And if not by bombing or shelling, then through sniping. And if not by snipers and drones, then by the lack of shelter, medical needs. And if not by that, then through starvation or the freezing cold, lack of water, and all these things. These are deliberate policies taken and executed by the Zionist regime and the most immoral army in history. There has not really been precedence with this. If you go back even to World War II, if you look at the Soviet Union, they lost about 10% of their population within a 4-year period. Here we're talking about 15 months in which almost 200,000 casualties between injured, killed, and missing, in addition to almost 90% of the population being displaced.
And at this moment, while the UN warns of alarming rates of water contamination, we note that just a few days ago, Human Rights Watch accused Israel of acts of genocide by deliberately obstructing access to water. Of course, we report on the airstrikes, on the acts of violence against Palestinians. But do you also perceive that denying basic services, denying water, denying access to heating in the cold, that is also a human rights violation, that is also an act of violence?
All these are war crimes. All these are acts of genocide with intent. I think we've seen the evidence time and again for the past year or more. We've seen what is being presented to the International Court of Justice. These are deliberate acts by this regime. And the goal is very, very clear. The goal is to empty Gaza, is to destroy Gaza, to make it unlivable, uninhabitable, so that they can not only displace the Palestinians again after the 1948 Nakba, but also to make sure that the demographic problem that Israel is facing, otherwise it will be marked, and it has been marked as an apartheid regime, takes place. And Netanyahu and his fascist government are working very methodically to make sure that Gaza will not be a livable place so that they can displace the millions of Palestinians. And this is basically the policy they have been pursuing since October 2023.
And Professor, I note that a few days ago, Tom Fletcher, who is the UN Undersecretary for Humanitarian Affairs, said that Israeli authorities have given almost zero access to the north of Gaza, and the UN has made more than 140 attempts over the past 2 months. What does the international community need to be doing at this moment to put pressure on Israel to give that crucial access?
This is the tragic situation here, is that the international community has been totally impotent, basically because of the stubbornness of the United States and its full backing as a complicit partner of this genocide. The international community hasn't been doing anything. It's really toothless. They don't have any means, any tools to force Israel to do anything. They have zero leverage. Israel has been controlling this situation for a long time because none of the actors, with very few exceptions, like the Houthis in Yemen, are willing to actually force Israel to give up any kind of concession on this area. It's not really a concession, it's international law. What Israel has been doing is violating international law left and right, and there hasn't been any mechanism to bring it to under control. And that's the real problem, because the United States is always ready with its veto. The other powers are not willing to do anything about it, so they just shrug and look the other way. And the victims of this genocide, the victims of these war crimes, are the Palestinians, are paying heavy price because of this impotence. The world order, this international world order, has lost its meaning. And I think that would be the huge price that the world would have to pay after the end of this genocide.
Professor Sami al-Arian from the Center for Islam and Global Affairs, thank you for joining us on the Al Jazeera News Hour.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.